Through these visions, the film acknowledges that our perspective changes with environment, and in this conceit, I believe opposition to the film is particularly interesting. This opposition came from a cross-section of real fans, trademark, who felt deeply hurt by their apparent lack of ability to consume an exact replica of The Empire Strikes Back, as well as from reactionaries, people who are angry that society continues to change, as well as the ever-growing cross-section between the two groups. Both took to Rotten Tomatoes' user reviews section in numbers, typically writing that the movie's story was too much of a departure, that it was too humorous, or that they didn't like its progressive politics. Then many of them repeated the action several times, either manually or via a bot or script. Rotten Tomatoes has claimed this didn't happen, though it bears mention that they are under no real obligation to acknowledge if it did. In fact, the very idea of a law concerning transparency in what amounts to a comment section is somewhat laughable. Aside from this, content companies absolve themselves from liability regarding user interactions in their terms of service. If they did acknowledge that this happened, it would likely undermine the validity of one of the more popular features on their site, which would impair their business. One user operating a Facebook group called Down with Disney's Treatment of Franchises and Fanboys claimed his bot malfunctioned and posted some reviews of The Last Jedi on the page for The Shape of Water instead. I can think of very few other reasons for the reviews saying they were angry about Luke Skywalker being portrayed badly and harming men, or the lack of an explanation about who Snoke is in the user review section for that film. The Shape of Water was obviously under no obligation to reveal Supreme Leader Snoke's backstory. That I was able to find a number of these reviews on The Shape of Water's page implies the bot thing is pretty real, and so did a study released after the first edition of this book entitled Weaponizing the Haters, The Last Jedi and the Strategic Politicization of Pop Culture Through Social Media Manipulation. Actual film critics saw The Last Jedi differently, typically expressing positive opinions of the film, particularly in that it was willing to ask questions about Star Wars and fandom itself. It's a perspective I didn't expect to see in a, Star Wars movie. What almost all of them negatively criticized, however, was a plot thread where several characters go to an opulent city called Canto Bight on a planet called Cantonica. I'll summarize this part of the movie. Two rebels must sabotage a large ship. To do this, they must sneak aboard it, and to do that, they'll need clearance codes, which change every hour. To even have a small chance at this, they must recruit a master code breaker. There is one apparently hanging out in a Canto Bight casino, so they go there. They improperly park on arrival, important, and then immediately come across, firsthand, both the relative beauty that wealth creates and the sickening exploitation that enables it. One of the two rebels has a more detailed understanding of why these people are rich, telling a story of oppression and exploitation as they happened inside a mining operation. She also points out that the casino's patrons are mainly in the business of selling weapons to the First Order, the bad guys of the film, the owners of the very ship they need to sabotage. But before they can speak to him, they are arrested for having parked improperly earlier. Should have thought that through. In jail, they meet a different code breaker who is, let's say, significantly less cut from the cloak of a traditional hero. He seems very much like he could even be a pretty serious problem, but he is also the only option, as there isn't much chance they will see the other code breaker again from behind bars. Reluctantly, they recruit him, then escape in a manner that trashes the casino and frees some abused space horses that are raced for fun and profit. On the way to complete their objective, the shady codebreaker reveals that the weapons dealers also do business with the Resistance, the good guys, and that business people really don't care about what is designated as good or bad. Rather, their main concern is that money is flowing in their direction. This is ultimately the shady codebreaker's personal stance as well. He sells out the mission when he finds out they've been caught. They are unable to sabotage their enemy, and the mission is a failure, leaving the Resistance in one hell of a pickle. To some, the lack of a payoff in the form of a massive victory is regarded as a lack of a point. I disagree. I believe